What's up, everyone? It's Jess Belmoss here from Locked On Flames, and the main reason why the Flames will absolutely win the Stanley Cup this year is their effective communication on the ice. I have never seen a team play like this before, and that top line, especially between Gaudreau, Tkachuk, and Lindholm, they all have this special form of communication that creates plenty of scoring opportunities, and they find the back of the net. And the same thing goes for really the rest of the lineup as well. They are such a deep team that has such great effective communication that allows them to find the back of the net. Like, they're able to score, and it's not just one line carrying the team, it is all of them. Now, one thing that will not let them get to the Stanley Cup celebration is, of course, their undisciplined form of hockey. They are notorious for taking, unneeded, unnecessary penalties, and I think that that is truly what cost them the playoff series against the Stars back in 2020, and it costs them a lot this season. And, I think it's important for the team to go out there and play a better and tighter game of hockey and not allow their emotions to get the best of them. And if they do, then they're simply not going to win the cup.
Hello, I'm Brett Holden. I'm the host of Locked On Oilers, and here's one reason why the Oilers will win the Stanley Cup and one reason why they won't win the Stanley Cup. One reason why the Oilers will win the Stanley Cup is because they actually have secondary scoring. It's not just Leon, it's not just Connor, the two putting the pucks into the net. Evander Kane, since he's come in, has put on a pace over 82 games for 44 goals and 36 assists. That's good enough for 80 points. Ever since he joined the Oilers, plus Zach Hyman is third on the team in points. That is a great signing for the Oilers. Plus, if I were to ask you who you think leads the Oilers in defensive points, would you have guessed Darnell Nurse? Because that's incorrect. Tyson Barrie, maybe. That's also incorrect. Did you guess Evan Bouchard? Because that is the correct answer. Yes, Evan Bouchard has put up his first ever 41 plus points season. That is better than Tyson Barrie, Darnell Nurse, Erik Karlsson, Mikhail Zergachev, Colton Parayko, and Miro Heiskanen. All those guys, he has more points than. On the other hand, one reason why the Oilers won't win the Stanley Cup, do I really have to say it? It's the goaltending. Yes, Mike Smith has been on an absolute tear on the last half of the season, and Mikko Koskinen has actually been rather consistent, rather solid in the crease, but it's whether or not that will continue. If the Oilers do get that goaltending, they will have a pretty good chance, but it's honestly a matter of time. If that goaltending does crumble, the Oilers will get it. And those are one reason why the Oilers will win the Stanley Cup and one reason why the Oilers won't.
The Los Angeles Kings will appear in the playoffs for the first time since 2018, so Kings fans are wondering what's next. Exactly how far will the Kings go? Well, we're going to find out soon, but for now, one reason the Kings could win the Stanley Cup, other than every team in the East getting abducted by aliens, well, they could theoretically win it all if some of the big names beat each other up in the early rounds. What if Calgary gets taken to 7 games by their opponent? What if the Colorado Avalanche choke again? In the East, it's going to be a battle for whoever wants to come out of there. Teams are going to be exhausted, so the Kings just have to hang on, right? There's like a 3% chance they're going to win it all. So do with that as you will. But more likely, one reason the Kings aren't going to win it all is that they're ahead of schedule. Most analysts predicted the Kings to miss the playoffs this year. They've got prospects on the cusp of really breaking out, but for most of them, this is their first real year in the NHL. The talent just isn't fully developed enough yet to be able to hang with the elite teams like Colorado and Calgary. We've seen that in basically every game the Kings played against the Avalanche this year. So it's great that the Kings are in the hunt. It's great that the kids are going to get this experience, but we really just got to enjoy this ride for as long as it lasts. To keep up with the Kings' surprise playoff run, listen to Locked On Los Angeles Kings wherever you get your podcasts.
How's it going, everybody? Chris and Kyle from Locked On Avalanche here, wanting to give you guys some insight into how the Avalanche could win the Stanley Cup playoffs and maybe how they could not. As far as getting to the Stanley Cup final, the Avs obviously are a favorite, definitely a favorite in the West, maybe a favorite across the board in the entire NHL. So pretty simply, how they win the Stanley Cup final is just playing their game. I know that sounds simple, but when you kind of hit the playoffs, sometimes if things don't go your way, sometimes teams get into panic mode and play out of their normal system. The Avs can't do that. And I think they know that they are going to be a tough out and a tough team to beat 4 times in any given round. So I think, if something doesn't go right one game, I don't think they change anything. I think they know that they have a good team. On paper, they are, like I said, one of the favorites. They should go far. But if they get out of their comfort zone and start playing to the level of the team that they're playing, I mean, in terms of that style, it could go south for them. But I think they know they have a very good team. And if they just play their game, they're going to be tough to beat.
And the one thing that would keep the Avalanche from winning the Stanley Cup this year kind of piggybacks on what Chris was saying. It's playoff series now. We're going back to playing the same team night after night after night. And this team can win the Stanley Cup by playing their game, but how they adjust their game on a night in, night out basis is really one of those things that could keep the Avalanche out, especially if injuries come into play. And that's been a problem for the Avalanche in the past playoffs, especially with the goalie position. How do the Avalanche adjust when they get hit back after punching in the mouth? That is what could possibly keep them out. Coming off a 4-game losing streak, the Avalanche showed that they can be human after this incredible year they've had. Can they do that in a series? We'll find out.
Yeah, I think Avalanche fans and the Avalanche franchise are expecting a deep run. And to do that, they just got to play their game. So enjoy it. Should be a good one.
Hey everybody, Seth Topol, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, taking a look at how the Wild will win or won't win the Stanley Cup trophy here this season. Now, for the Wild, it comes down to special teams and special teams only. If the Wild can find a way to put together a competent power play in the postseason, that makes them an infinitely more dangerous team than the one that excelled at 5-on-5 and struggled at the power play throughout the course of the season. So if the Wild can get average to above average power play and a penalty kill that can stop opponents more often than it lets in goals, the Wilds can beat anybody in the NHL. The problem comes with when the Wild give up power play goals almost every time an opponent goes on the power play, and when the Wild's power play itself becomes way too passive, leading to not power play goals for the Minnesota Wild. So ultimately, if the power play and the penalty kill are good, the Wild are a completely different team than when they both struggle. And so if the Wild get good special teams, they're going to hoist the cup. If not, it will be a quick postseason for the Minnesota Wild. For more on the Minnesota Wild, make sure you are listening to Locked On Wild wherever you listen to podcasts.
What's up, everybody? Josh Hyman here, one half of Locked On Blues. And with the playoffs right around the corner, it's time to talk about Stanley Cup chances. So I'm here to give you one reason why the Blues will win the Stanley Cup and one reason why the St. Louis Blues might not win the Stanley Cup. Now, the reason why they will win the Stanley Cup, or could win the Stanley Cup, if you may, is pretty simple. If you've been listening to the show, if you've been watching Blues hockey, you know that this offense is one of the best, if not the best, in franchise history. The St. Louis Blues have a record 8 20-goal scorers right now. They have a bunch of players over point per game, just tons and tons of offensive depth for the St. Louis Blues, and that can definitely take you over the edge in a playoff series. They can score at will, seemingly. They've had tons of offensive explosions lately, and it's going to be hard to beat a team that can score like that. Now, on the other hand, one reason why the Blues might not win the Stanley Cup this year is the exact opposite, and it's their defense. Definitely not as much of a struggle as it was at the beginning of the year, but the Blues defense is definitely still their Achilles heel. If that offense goes cold, it is tough to rely on their defense to kind of shut the door and win a game on their own. They have had pretty good goaltending between both Ville Husso and Jordan Binnington at times throughout the season, but if the defense isn't able to kind of keep opponents out of games and give the Blues a chance to win when their offense isn't as hot, then the Blues are going to have a pretty tough time advancing in a playoff series. But yeah, as long as the offense stays hot, the St. Louis Blues have a really good chance this season. Let's go Blues.
Nick Morgan here from the Locked On Predators podcast. The Nashville Predators will win the Stanley Cup this year because of their scoring. I know that's kind of weird to say with the Nashville Predators, right? But Roman Josi is doing absolute gangbusters right now. You also have guys like Philip Forsberg and Matt Duchene who are having career years. You put this top line, these top tier players for the Nashville Predators against any team in the Western Conference, and they match up. They really do have the scoring to keep up with all the top teams in the NHL. Now, one reason the Predators may struggle, they can't play team defense. Yeah, that's been kind of the problem for the Nashville Predators. It seems like it's kind of a flip-flop over the traditional Predators from the past couple of years, but they are giving up 35 to 40, sometimes even 45 to 50 shots per game against a lot of these big name opponents. And if UC Saros, whether he's healthy or not, whether they have to go to a backup, regardless, you're going to get them worn out down the stretch. You cannot rely on goaltending. You have to limit chances in front of your goaltender. That's something the Nashville Predators haven't really done well over the past month or so of the season. But when they've had games like Calgary, like they had a couple of weeks ago where they limited to 21 shots, when they've been able to stymie teams like Colorado, they've shown they can steal a win and they can steal a series if they do that. We'll have to see.
Howdy there, hockey fans. This is Dane Lewis with the Locked On Stars podcast, and I'm here to tell you everything you need to know about the Dallas Stars going into the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Stars have a great chance to win the Stanley Cup this year because they are a veteran-led, battle-tested team. This team has gone through so much adversity dating all the way back to their cup run in 2020. They've dealt with injuries. They've dealt with COVID. They've dealt with weather delays and condensed schedules. And even this most recent season has presented its own challenges to this team like it has many other teams in the NHL. But I think all of those challenges combined have made this team incredibly strong, incredibly tight-knit, and I think they'll be ready for any challenges that the playoffs throw their way, led by veterans like Joe Pavelski, like Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, and John Klingberg. But then on the other hand, one reason I can see the Dallas Stars not winning the Stanley Cup is because of inconsistency on offense. The Stars are 23rd in the National Hockey League in goals for, and they've struggled to produce consistent 5-on-5 play outside of their top line. So if any team that the Stars play in the postseason can find a way to shut down that Pavelski, Hintz, Robertson line, that will make things incredibly challenging for the Stars team moving deep into the postseason. They need to find some guys that can step up and provide some secondary scoring in order to stay competitive. But if you want more information on the Dallas Stars and everything you need to know about them going into the playoffs in 2022, you can check out the Locked On Stars podcast on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube as well.